Hello and welcome to DDOCast episode 631, recorded live on Saturday, March 13th. I'm your host, Patrick. With me, coming back to the show, we have Samius Gurobo.
Hi.
We thought we'd let him out from behind his rock, come back on the show for a little bit.
AKA, no one else wanted to be here. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true. That's a little harsh.
A more accurate description would be Patrick's schedule is going in 15 different directions right now. And there was a delay in figuring out when the show was going to be, and then there was a scramble to find people, and Samus was available, and here we are.
Exactament.
That's pretty much how that goes.
Always down to talk DDO, that's all right.
This week's screenshot, Ava explores the wonders of the icy mountains in the 501st screenshot of the week. Thanks, Eva Meal, for sending in this week's screenshot. They also had the 500 screenshot because we missed a show last week because, again, scheduling is fun and challenging. And that was it was kind of it was a perfectly fine picture. It was very simple, and this one was more interesting, so I went with this one this week.
I really like this one too. I just feel like frostbite's a concern. If I was riding around the mountains in snow on my unicorn and a halter top.
Yeah. If for those who are interested, I don't think we'll really actually talk about this later anyways. But so they made a little tweaks about the demigod and the dryad. The dryad and demigod, I can't remember which way. Anyways, the new raid, and there's some new things dropping out of the raid, including that unicorn. This is the armored black unicorn. There's also an armored unicorn. I don't know why they didn't call it an armored white unicorn, since it's the white one. But those are now dropping from the raid, and that's the one. So if you're wondering what it looks like, there you go.
I was wondering. It does look really nice.
Yeah, it is a nice unicorn. Still no word on that the flame hair one. I'm thinking maybe with the raid from the Wild Hunt they're talking about.
That nightmare looking one.
Yeah. Well, it looks like a nightmare except it's white and it's a white horse with blue hair instead of a black horse with red hair.
Was it? I thought there was also a nightmare-looking one. Also, maybe not.
I don't think so.
I love all the horses, but I'm ready for some vehicles.
Okay. I mean, technically, we have vehicles. There are airships.
Well, I know, but I meant for a mount. I'm ready for a mount vehicle. Like I know there's people have thrown around like a magic carpet. That's well and good. I still feel like the Artificer Harley, the Earth Elemental, could probably figure out a way to make an Earth Elemental powered 2-wheeled cart of some sort. Maybe he does wheelies, goes real fast, jumps over things.
I mean, I think Severlin actually said at one point he was interested in magic carpets, but
yeah, that's where I'm pulling that from.
Yeah, okay. Anyways, we like to talk about Dungeons & Dragons online nearly every weekend. You can watch us through Twitch, YouTube, the DDO forums, iTunes, or from our website at DDOcast.com. DDOcast is hosted by Cyber Ears, the awesome podcast hosting network, and shows are usually available within a few days of recording. The next show, let's talk about the next show and calendar stuff. There's a calendar at DDOcast which you can subscribe to. You can get it on your phone if you want to follow when the show is going to be. I don't know that anyone really uses it, but I use it to do scheduling stuff, and it's really easy for it to be like public, done, easy peasy. Yeah. And it also has the sales. I'm usually pretty decent about putting the sales in. I kind of alluded to my schedule's getting really crazy. I'm working, which is fantastic, but it's not exactly an industry that is, if I don't have my house job that I was working at is not something that's happening yet. So my schedule is going to be very interesting, potentially including not being in the same state as this room. So still trying to figure some of that out. So please bear with us as there may be some more shows that are kind of more of a shotgun approach, last minute. Next week, looks like Jerry is going to host the show. it will take me a few days longer to get the show out and published than normal. But if you follow us on Twitch, you should be able to get the show there pretty right after, as live or after it's there. It'll be there first, obviously. So that's just kind of what's going on there. As Lessa would say, pardon the dust. things are going crazy here.
I think most people are just happy to have a show out there.
Yeah.
Like, it's really nice to just be able to, when you're doing that other thing, to get that touch of the thing that you love. So I know I appreciate you taking the time to get them out as often as you can.
On the podcast this week, we took last week off, so we've got a couple weeks of news. But this is all going to be kind of mostly revolving around update 48.4, which was the kind of the recent release that had the big changes. There's been a couple patches since then, which we're talking about, and we're going to give kind of a review of update 48.4. It's going to be kind of more of a mini review compared to some of our other reviews. Like, there's not a ton of stuff to go over, and we'll probably end up lumping them into larger buckets, as it were. But we'll talk about some of that stuff and things. So that's where we're going. And with that, we will jump right into game news. And so I mentioned there's a couple of stuff, a couple of patches that came out as well. But just to kind of start, party favors, I want to kind of button up a few things. The party favor thing, the free part. This is not I can't remember the name of it. I didn't write it down.
The coupon code?
Yeah. The item that you got that you could get party favors just kind of running around.
It's like an elixir party or something like that. I don't remember the exact name. I just got the one from the coupon code and tried it.
Yeah. Cordovan mentioned that so you get a 5% chance to acquire a party favor for every monster you personally defeat. Which is helpful information, particularly since, if you're playing a healer, bad character to use it on. Or a tank or something that's not going to be doing a lot of killing, not super great.
Well, it really depends on where you're using it too. Like,
sure.
It's something that you definitely want to strategize for and line up with what else is going on in your gameplay.
Well, there was it doesn't care currently what level you are relative to what you're running, which is,
I believe that's correct.
Maybe not intended behavior, but that's what's going on.
Yeah, you could do that. Explore zones are really good for, again, depending on how you can align things up. I have a couple people in my circle that have been using them and just say they've been playing like normal. So
yeah. How many did you get with the one that you had? Do you remember?
I really didn't pay super close attention, but probably something around 50, I would guess.
I got about 30, but I also wasn't really focusing on killing stuff per se, because I was playing on an alchemist, so it was very much a I would throw a violet and that thing's like got 100 hit points. I'm not gonna waste a spell on it. There's a guy behind me who can swing a sword at it.
Right.
So I wasn't really super focused on getting the kills and stuff. But anyways, wanted to mention that. I was also going to mention in a previous show, you and I kind of having a conversation about shifter and what kind of build for a shifter to use for shifter, right?
Correct.
I know since you were here, I was going to mention I made I rerolled my druid into a poor man bear tank as a shifter, and I'm really happy with it. So give that a whirl if you're looking for, kind of wondering where to go shifter. I did not do the iconic. I did the basic version. Now I gotta think about. There's two versions, right? And I don't remember which one. Not the dex based one, or the wisdom based one, but the one that's.
Isn't that the wild hunt?
I think that one is, yeah.
I think so.
The other one. But no, I'm really enjoying it. It doesn't have a lot of past lives behind it. It doesn't. He's just using mostly Feywild gear. And he's while raging, he's right around 5,000 hit points.
Pretty good.
So
yeah, I am actually looking at. I'm about ready to do my ETR for this Tiefling, the iconic Tiefling. I'm going through iconics now. And I actually am not going to do the third Tiefling life right away. I think I'm going to abort and I'm going to do some of the Razor Claw lives because I think we're getting very close to hardcore. I don't think they've announced anything, but I think it's going to be next month, like early next month.
April is what we've been hearing.
Yeah. So I'm kind of looking at trying a couple of bear tanks actually with the iconic pass to kind of look at it. So I'm hoping that's the place to be, but I don't know yet.
So I did a bear tank. I should have mentioned on the show this week. Patrick and Samius take 15 rabbit trails.
That's what I'm here for. Yeah.
So I did a bear tank season 1 and season 2 of hardcore, and I mostly liked it. There were some places that the reason why I kind of am a little more sour on it now is, having done it, is hardcore. You really want to, especially if you're kind of pushing the difficulty level, you really want to maximize your ability to use things like scrolls and wands and these other ancillary things to augment what you can be and what you can do. And it's just really annoying to do that as a bear because you're always going in and out of bear form.
Yeah, that is definitely something you have to work on. Now I've been looking at a bunch of different things. What irritates me the most about the bear forms is it's considered a major form. So you have to be careful on like stacking some of those different forms and stances together.
Yeah.
And
you
of
can't
course
use
also
the ASMR stance and
correct stuff like that. I think I was told that you could be an undead bear, but I haven't tried that one personally.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
I don't
like
think that's right.
There's some things in there that I personally want to like experiment with just to kind of see where I can test the waters cuz I think that if you could find the right barian build, you could do some really interesting things. You just have that mountain pile of hit points and be immune to almost everything and have a little bit of healing.
It definitely has a lot of hit points. I think especially earlier, I felt like I had more hit points than other tank options. But
two intimidates, right? That's the other thing.
It does, yeah. Although I didn't really find that to be that big of an issue. I think it's called Tremor. The stomp to knock things down was kind of useful. The thing about besides the mechanics of having to go out of bear form a bunch, one of the problems I was having was magic missiles. I actually, season 2 took a level of favored soul specifically so I could cast Night Shield for magic missiles because they don't get a blocker for magic missiles, and I didn't like having to go out and cast shield scrolls all the time.
Right. But now you have Feywild goodness.
You could go that way. There is not a shortage of ways to spend your action points on a bear tank.
That is correct. I'm doing a build right now that's using a lot of action points, and I have a lot of action points from past lives and the purchasable tomes and stuff like that. I still need like 3 more action points.
The other problem I kind of had with it was it wasn't as self-healy as maybe I would have liked. I did go ASMR, so I had the healing hands.
Mm-hmm.
But then you're not getting super great use out of the ASMR tree. I would still probably go that way if you can do that in hardcore, but anyways,
that's a different show.
Yeah.
we can tear down the pre-hardcore show later.
Anyways, so yeah, so I wanted to kind of circle back on the shift, because we talked a little bit about shifter and where do they fit in the ecosystem, and I'm happy with the bear tank that I have with it. So Wild Hunt Shifter Howl. So Steelstar was poking at a couple of shifter bugs and was able to tweak it. It's not in any of these patches, but it'll be should be in by update 49. At least I don't think it was in these patches. It might have been. So the current howl lasted 2 seconds total, and you couldn't bail early. The new version still lasts 2 seconds, but you can bail at 1.75 seconds for other stuff. And the effect is will now deliver the same time that the animation peaks, which is about half a second in. It's still kind of a long thing, and it's kind of meant to be because the power of the skill is meant to correlate to that. But it will be a little shorter, and it won't look like you're sitting around at the end. It was kind of what he was going for there. So,
yeah, I'm gonna throw another super fast aside here. I love being informed how we would like to have the abilities like play out and stuff.
You talking about the timing?
Yeah, like the timing and all the different triggered events and stuff. Like I like being able to see that, especially for new things.
Mm-hmm.
So when they're asking us for like our input for bug checking and stuff like that, we know what to expect as opposed to, well, this is what we're getting. So is this what it's supposed to be? I just, quick note, I really appreciate laying it out like that for us.
The specificity is very nice.
Yeah, exactly.
The Fables of the Feywild soundtrack on YouTube had 2 new tracks added for the raid. One is for victory, one is for failure, because it ends differently based on who gets to sing. The Salt Marsh, talked about this in the producer's letter. It snuck into the game a little bit in the compendium, and was listed as, I think, level 3 and level 23. Knockback clarified that it will be heroic will be level 3-ish, and the legendary will be level 32. So, which makes sense. I saw a bunch of people freaking out, like 23. Why is it gonna be 23? I'm like, look, it's an expansion. It's not gonna be 23. It's gonna be cap, right? Like, what? You're not gonna release an expansion in the middle of the level range?
No, probably not. It seemed like an easy, as a person who's like 3/4 dyslexic himself, it's pretty easy to just see how that could have got flipped around or be a hangover in the early design process, which I think is what Jerry said.
I think that's what it was.
Like
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, I think they do a fair amount of like copy and paste with some things. Like, I think actually with monsters in a dungeon, or I think a lot of times they'll actually just like copy monsters from that are already existing and then like tweak them for the dungeon kind of a thing. So.
Yeah, that makes the most sense. Like import a module of that X.
Yeah.
And go to town.
All right, update 48, patch 4, hotfix 1. This was released on Thursday, March 4th. There were some changes to Alchemist. So multi-vial spell-like ability can now be cast directionally. That means you don't have to have it targeted. You can just cast the spell, which is fantastic. I love that change. Although I will say I was running my sorcerer through the anniversary dungeon a few times. And having been doing a lot of Alchemist for the last couple months, it was a little weird transitioning back to, facing's important with sorcerer spells in ways it's not with Alchemist. That was kind of funny. The Beacon of Magic set now correctly boosts poison spell power, which doesn't seem like it's a class-specific thing, but, whatever. Fix some tooltips, and let's see. Curative Admixture version of Heal now does everything Heal is supposed to do. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Holy cow. That was never annoying. They fixed Sorcerer's version of Meteor Storm now having its intended cooldown of 6 seconds. Which was not the case briefly. Although, wasn't that supposed to be 9 seconds?
It's 9 seconds for non-sorcerers.
Oh,
I
right.
think sorcerers.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
sorcerers still had the leftover like 6 or 3 seconds,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so they
That's right.
increased it to where it's supposed to be now.
Hand and a half weapons now properly function with offhand versatility. I know that was a big thing that people wanted. So they fixed that. Some tooltips were corrected in Angel of Vengeance and Divine Disciple trees. Natural Fighting now gives its expected amount of ability score modifier to damage, and Perfect Natural Fighting now properly boosts Epic Defensive Fighting. Yay! Let's see. Epic Defensive Fighting now lists the feats that qualify for it better. It's a
I mean,
long
again,
tooltip.
sharing information in a useful manner is good.
Yes.
This is definitely better.
Yeah. Corrected an issue with the Rose Thorn Necklace's Thorn of Rose ability that could cause a character to become improperly exhausted.
That could be problematic.
Yeah, you think? Yeah. Quench now works on the Bottled Rainstorm. Boon of Undeath and Greater Boon of Undeath once again function. That's good.
It is good.
Uh,
You missed the most important one.
oh,
One that I'm most disappointed and unhappy with.
corrected an
Under
appearance
hirelings,
issue with
corrected
hirelings.
appearance with hirelings. Yeah, that's the most important one. The one that was the most disappointing.
Because you didn't want it to be fixed. You liked
Yeah, I
that they
didn't want
didn't
it to
have
be fixed.
pants.
I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
I'm a person who uses hirelings a lot. I found it to be funny
You're
because you
also
did. Yeah, I was just gonna say you don't know which different ones were missing what. It's like it was interesting.
you also are someone who is not super likable with pants too, right? Like,
That is also true. As a rule, I'm anti-pants.
yeah. So,
That's a fact.
they corrected cloak display issues with half-orc males, as
That's
well
a
as
good change.
a bunch of cosmetic fixes with Blade Forge and Warforged. I'm not gonna go through all of those, but there are a whole bunch of what are they at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different things with that. So
Yeah, probably just a series of stuff that had been messed up for a long time that kind of all
I got
got fixed. It's all tied together.
I got the impression that that was recent. Like it had just happened. It was probably a halo effect that was also affecting hirelings.
I thought it was something that had been around for a long time. Then they were updating it,
I don't know.
and then I don't know. I feel like it was a long time change that got updated to like a new methodology.
Okay.
That's how I remember it, but I don't know. I just play this game like 70 hours a week.
The problem is when you play a game that much, there's certain things that you just kind of you see so often, you just kind of gloss over.
Yep, exactly.
Where was it? There was somewhere that I noticed something for the first time in a dungeon. And it's something that I've run many, many times. Like it wasn't the first time I was there. I was like, oh, that's neat. I don't
Yeah,
remember that piece of dialogue.
like for example, I spent so much time doing heroic leveling that I'm just now kind of getting back because I'm on iconic lives now. I'm back into checking out epic stuff.
Right.
So like the running through Evening Star and stuff is way different now because there's collectibles. So like
Yes.
literally every time I turn around, I'm like, oh, here's a breakable I didn't know about, or oh man, there's a collectible. Maybe I'll have to start coming over here. So like, I understand that feeling for like really old content, but yeah, it's weird how much more you don't know that you don't know that you know or need to know or whatever. However that goes.
Something like that. Monsters. Several monster spells have been adjusted to appropriate damage values.
I feel shenanigans.
Oh, why is that?
I have a feeling that it's a little bit bumped up higher than they meant it to be. But that's okay. I don't mind things being a little tougher, but I feel like it's a little higher than it's supposed to be.
This is one of those release notes that it's pretty vague, right? But I'm not actually sure if I want it to be more specific either.
Well, if it's the fact that you like have gotten used to damage being lower, for example, right?
But this
And then all
could
of a sudden
be
there's a big bump
the
up, it would be
damage was
good.
too high and they're lowering it.
It could be. I don't think it is. I think that was what the intention was. I think the rumor, or if I remember correctly, the rumor is that the spell damage increased more than they intended when they did the 48.4, the 48.8. What is? Yeah, 48.8. Sorry, no.
48.4.
48.4. There you go. Thank you. It increased their damage more than it was intended to, and this was supposed to be a roll back. But I don't feel like it's rolled back. I feel like it's the same. Or maybe if it is tweaked, it's tweaked very, very minorly.
Yeah,
I feel like things are hitting really hard the last 2 weeks.
Like I said, I'm not sure if I want this to be more specific in the sense that as vague as its vagueness kind of I think enriches the gameplay from the sense that I don't know what that's gonna look like, right? Like there's a little bit of a surprise in there, which I kind of like. But at the same time, like now we're reduced to it just being like based on feeling, and we don't know is it supposed to be more? Is it supposed to be less? We don't like.
Correct.
So it's hard to give good feedback.
Exactly. That specificity is if you want feedback here, that would be wanted.
Yeah.
But if we don't want the feedback, then you put a vague post out and you're like, well, it's changed. Get used to the new change, whether it's what you want it to be or not. It's changed. This is what it is.
And we're not going to tell you if we hit the mark.
We don't know if it's what I want. This is the new normal. Get used to it. And you're like, I still feel like I'm getting one-shotted for like 7,000 points of damage.
You know what we need? So you know how there's the DPS test kobolds?
There is.
Yes. So on Lemania, we need a test JoJo, except what it is players get to join like a dev or something like that and go into a little room, and then the dev just throws something at them to see how as if it's a monster spell to see how much damage it's doing. So like a player test kobold.
Yeah, I was thinking something similar where the kobold casts spells at you and you like run on a grid to like have it fire things off.
Yeah.
So you'd be like, you'd run up and you'd hit a button for it to be like level 32, and then you'd hit like another button like a wizard and then cat. You know what I mean? And then it would just like spam those spells nonstop, and you could go stand in front of it.
That could be interesting. The Dryad and the Demigod Rest and Resurrection Shrines also now function properly. Yay, that's helpful.
Yeah, that was a weird one because I don't know if you made it into what am I saying? I know you made it into the first day to check it out. Because it's you. He's smiling. I can't tell, but he is. But yeah, we went into the first day and it was like sometimes we thought the Res and Rest Shrine worked, and sometimes they didn't. And
I never tried the Resurrection Shrine. I just knew the Rest Shrine didn't work.
Yeah, I again, there was vagueness around it. We didn't know if we had to do some sort of dance to make it happen, or you know what I mean. Like,
my guess
can we turn them on? How do we turn them on? Where's the switch? And it's like, no, they just are broken.
I'm pretty sure it was just like they put the art asset in there and didn't hook it up to the mechanic.
Again, how do we know, right? Like when it was released, we don't know if it's a toggle on, toggle off shrine. Normally when they do that, they disappear and reappear, but we didn't know.
Yeah. Let's see. Update 48.4 hotfix 2. This was this week. I grabbed the pre-announcement, not the so Coco Majobo. Short aside on this one, because we don't have enough asides in this show. Coco Majobo actually posted this one instead of Jerry, and it turns out that Coco didn't have the keys to post the release notes in the place that Jerry normally posts them, which is kind of this separate thing that they link to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a whole bunch of people were actually like, "Hey, I like this formatting better. Can we do this in the future?" And I even posted in there like, as someone who like copies and pastes for release notes, this was a much better formatting. Can we do this in the future?
Yeah, I never liked how there was like a middle page. Whenever you go somewhere, I much rather go to my destination. So
I didn't mind. I didn't mind the other page thing. It's just that because it was on that other page and the way that it formats, like copy and pasting into my show notes document, it just like there's extra tab indents and like it's just all sort of this really messy. This imported in very nice and clean, and I really appreciated that.
Real quick, also while we're talking about things we appreciate, I know they've been trying to modify the game a little bit to make patching quicker, so you have least amount of downtime. I really felt that the last two updates, these little mini patches. I don't think the servers were down for that long
Nope.
for the patches and stuff. Like the game was back up like way quicker than I thought it was going to be.
I think this
So
patch this
noticeable
week was
effect.
like 2.5 hours before their
Correct.
scheduled
It was
uptime.
like way early.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really did appreciate that.
There's also not a whole lot of stuff happening, so that's probably part of it. But anyways, this release, offhand versatility, the bonus for having nothing equipped in your offhand now functions.
Good change, positive
Yeah,
change.
that's. Hey, here's a shiny new feat that doesn't work.
Well, I was using it for the. I actually used it with an orb in my hand, sorry, a rune arm. I actually thought it was very good. I think it's a very powerful feat.
Good.
If you like in the build that I've been doing, the general idea of knowing when your heal is going to crit, right? Like a one weapon or single weapon fighter that self heals, especially in Reapers, so you can like guarantee to fire off a crit heal on yourself.
Very nice.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect two-handed fighting now properly gives the extra ability score modifier to damage. I feel like I've seen that before.
Also good.
Archer's Focus no longer creates an excess amount of combat log spam.
I can appreciate that.
Hey man, here's another little short aside. I would love more control about what goes in the combat tracker.
Yeah, it'd be real nice. It
There's
would be nice.
some stuff in there that maybe I should actually look to see what I can currently do, because I think it has actually changed recently. But yeesh.
It'd also be nice to highlight certain things, like always highlight numbers or
Oh sure,
something
I
along
do.
those lines.
I do have in my UI settings. You can change the color of when you kill something, like the damage color for when you kill something.
Mm-hmm.
So I do that to kind of, which helps me see that, oh, I killed it. But yeah, I agree. Several augments no longer erroneously visibly display on the buff bar. I'm not super sure how I feel about this. I like there being less things in the buff bar. However, there are certain effects, like some augments, although supposedly they fix them in filigrees and stuff, that don't all, like, sometimes you have to take the item off and put it back on for them to take effect.
Right.
So, kind of like to know when that's the case. Masterful Magerite set bonus now provides its listed bonus to spells DCs. Great. Inflict wound potions now appropriately heal undead players. Very helpful.
I honestly don't know how much that's a problem. If you're using potions to heal your undead self, you're in a weird spot, mate.
You know, I was thinking this was like admixtures, and maybe that's not the case.
Oh, that's possible. Yeah, that's possible.
Yeah, I don't know.
I was just thinking, like, literally drinking the.
I think that's actually what it is, because I don't recall there actually being an issue with using the admixture ones, but I don't know. Deep Gnome's hardy nature should now display more reliably. Character generation text for Shifter has had some inaccuracies corrected. That's good. Here, let us tell you how to make a Shifter by giving you bad information. Yikes. Wizard versions of Acid Well, Iceberg, and Thunderstroke now have their intended 9-second cooldown.
That is an eternity, man.
Well, it's less than 12 seconds.
It is, but it still is an eternity.
I'm just trying to figure out why. Why did it take two hot fixes past a patch that it was supposed to? Like, this seems like something that should have been easy. Like, is this not just like change a number in a text somewhere, line of code somewhere?
I would imagine, but
yeah,
it's very, man. Like anything could happen at some point, and cooldowns get manipulated so much behind the scenes.
Yep. Dryden the Demigod. They fixed some issues causing Hawthorne to sometimes fail to gain corruption. This, let's say, it was prominently displayed in some guilds that won't be named, running the raid on high difficulties. You couldn't fail. Sometimes you couldn't fail the raid. Wasn't all the time, but sometimes that would happen. And then also they fixed some issues with the end fight, including the teleport to it and the barrier around it. again, a guild that will not be named, utilized a not so uncommon feature of barriers being not so barrier like.
Why do I feel like the lava divers need a good schooling right now? Like their ears need boxed a little bit.
Hey,
But I don't know. I don't know. It could be any name. You didn't name any names.
I didn't name any names. Uh, look, hey, people. I have noticed. I haven't really been doing a lot of the hey, let's try to complete this raid on this really stupidly high difficulty. Um, I have noticed recently that players do really enjoy. I don't want to use the word exploiting, but they do enjoy taking advantage of things that are perhaps not super as intended. In order to get that, like, it's part of the process of like, oh, what works and what doesn't. Like, there's an exploratory process. Not like these things are just like told to work. Like that's part of the learning and experiencing and trial and error process, which is good, right? Like,
Well,
so.
if you don't know how they want you to get from A to B, which we've already established in a quest, we don't necessarily want them to tell us how to get to A to B. We want
Sure.
to discover that path on our own.
Sure.
Well, then that means sometimes you might be pushing the boundaries of what was intended.
Yep.
Because you don't know. And this is not a conversation that we want to have on this particular show either, but there's a culture there that is not the most helpful for us both finding and describing bugs and other unintended things more smoothly. But it also puts us sometimes at risk of breaking rules that we don't know that we're breaking.
Yeah, that can happen. And there's
So
I think the kind of classic thing too with this is terrain. What is using terrain and what is hanging a thing up on it in a weird way, right? So
right. Well, and at the same time, if you take that to your pen and paper campaigns, right? The things that people enjoy is figuring out the loopholes and the obstacles along the way.
it's true.
So like, I've often mentioned that some of my favorite quests in the game, like Litany of the Damned, Maze of Madness, etc., they have mechanics that you can circumvent, and it makes you feel like you're getting away with something, like outsmarting the DM, and it feels very satisfying, right? So like, in my opinion, those are all admirable things. So if you're doing something that's maybe bouncing on the edge of intended or not, and you're not really sure, I say report it and have a good time.
As a DM, I definitely have experienced the players taking advantage of mechanics that are broken. Like
Yeah,
when
and
you could rebound lightning bolt up and down through the same monster like 50 times
correct.
and stuff like that.
You're
And
a wizard. You're not a geometry expert.
well, and I did something where I had my players go in a dungeon that was covered with moss that absorbed the electricity so it wouldn't rebound.
Mm-hmm.
And they looked at me like, well, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "What? Learn a new trick."
That's right. You figured out how to exploit my trick. I learned that your trick. I figured out a way to break your trick. You learn a new one. It's your turn. That's the advantage of having a live DM versus a program DM.
It's true. So that's the patches. Bugs. It looks like the immunity to slippery surfaces portion, but only that portion, isn't sticking to the player. For the freedom of movement part for shifters. One of the abilities that shifters can get gives them freedom of movement. Although I think the tooltip is still listing it as petrification, like the one that when you hover over your character, not the one in the tree. They seem to fix that as well. But wanted to mention that the slippery surfaces portion isn't working with that. Very sad. Bonus days. DDO bonus days brings you a champion hunter week now through March 17th. Find limited time items with the mysterious remnants vendor in the Hall of Heroes. Also, huh?
I said it's a good one.
Yep. Really quick, if you don't have the Eternal Flask of Freedom of Movement and Death Ward, good time to pick it up.
Yep.
There's also Displacement.
Less good?
Yeah, I would agree. Doesn't last very long, but hey, it's useful.
Yep. I think there's a haste one too, right?
There's one of heroism. I don't think there's a haste one.
Okay. I thought there was a haste one.
There might be. If there is, I don't have it. I don't care.
Easy enough.
not gonna use it. But let's see. Also, 5% Reaper XP through March 14th.
Another big one.
Yeah. Although
good bonuses the last couple of goes around
yeah,
here.
they have been. Although I have to constantly remind myself, see that +5 Reaper XP bonus. That's fantastic. I'm like, that's great. Like bonus to Reaper XP. Not, I'd rather have it than not. But if you actually look at the numbers, it's not that. It's less than you think it is.
It is, but then it also gives you a reason to have done that iconic or that tier or whatever and get your first times, maybe motivate to get those bigger first times.
Yep.
Like if you're looking for wings, and I'm that one person that has wings and normally doesn't bother with them because I don't really love them. But if you want to get those wings, this is how you do it. You play these kind of weekends, you do high Reapers, you reset so you get your first time bonuses, and you catch these kind of weekends again.
Yeah, you do. No, the buddy bonus also works with Reaper XP too, which is a much bigger bonus. But yeah, it's just funny. I have found myself numerous times. I used to I'm gonna run the hardware class in R3, and then I actually did the math, or someone else did the math, and I looked at it and doing this on 3 skull versus 1 skull is netting me 20 Reaper XP. Is this really worth it? No. So.
Well, it depends. Did you have that extra percentage of fun and challenge? Probably. That's the real reason why you run them.
Yeah,
until you get to the level 30s, there's no real noticeable difference between R1 and R4 for getting Reaper experience.
My hardcore experience showed me that there's 2 to 3 is a pretty noticeable difference.
Well, I meant for experience.
Yeah.
If you're trying to meet your experience points goal, just doing Reaper 1s, on the hardcore server, which is what I normally do, you're going to get there around the same time if you did everything on R1 versus R3.
Sure.
So just do R1s for comfort and speed, typically. Although if you play with me, you will get about 8,000 Reapers on R1.
That can happen.
Sorry.
It doesn't matter what difficulty you're running on hardcore. When you turn a corner, it's like, oh, there's 3 Reapers there. Please don't see me. Please don't see me.
I hope you kill the hireling. Some of the hireling run away.
Yeah, that happened. I am planning on doing a topic on getting Reaper XP, how to get more Reaper XP in the near-ish future.
That'll be a good show.
Yeah. Store news. The sale Dress to Kill. Have we had this sale before? Is this a new one?
It sounds familiar, but I could not tell you.
It does sound familiar, but I don't remember it. Yeah. Anyways, it's 30% off of Mirrors of Glamoring, bypass timers, which has made a lot of people happy, cosmetic outfits, hats, helmets, and hair dyes through March 18th. I'm not exactly sure how bypass timers fit in with the Dress to Kill theme, but they're on sale.
Don't ruin it for them. Don't ruin it for us. Leave it alone. Maybe they'll bring this one back because they don't realize it's good.
My experience this weekend is they don't need me to tell them that it's good because I know several people who went and bought large stacks of bypass timers.
Yeah, but maybe they won't know. Maybe they won't figure it out.
I'm pretty sure it's going to come back.
Yeah, possibly.
The weekly coupon code, Sovereign Elixir of Hidden Potential, it's the 6-hour one.
Good one.
Yeah?
Yeah, this is another good one.
Hide 6 is the coupon code. If you don't know what this is the potion that gives you a greater chance to get a 4th effect on a random piece of loot. That's what it does. Oopsie. I minimized my window with my show notes. There you go. Those are the store sales through March 18th. We'll do the review part later. Let's jump into community news. Got a couple chronicles. The 416th Chronicle. They did a big hangout on Twitch for the 15th anniversary. Also, they highlighted Severland's producer's letter in the spotlights. Do you want to say anything quick about the producer's letter? Because you weren't here last week when we were talking about it.
No, not really. I always feel like the producers' letters are 2/3 hype man, and the other third is like misdirection. Um, I always kind of take them with a real grain of salt. Like I
Sure.
get that it's a what we'd like to get done, which I appreciate any and all information that they're doing. I just really like the Q&A stuff that comes up. I feel like I'm getting a whole lot more out of that hour of listening to Q&A than I am
Yeah.
a carefully crafted letter that they write for 3 months or whatever it takes them to get it written.
I
Um,
I do think it like I thought that was great that they did the ask thing,
mhm.
question and answer, because the producer's letter kind of gave a tee off point for a lot of that
That's a
discussion.
fair point. It's a fair
Um,
point.
but I think I mentioned this the last show. Like I really did feel like this producer's letter, the bets were a lot more hedged this year. Like
Well, and they
most of the
probably
stuff
should.
was stuff we already knew about.
Well, I mean, once burnt, twice shy, right? So last year taught us anything, it's that be careful what you promise.
Yeah,
So I think it's smart, but at the same time, I feel like it comes really, really late in the year for something that's not that information packed. Where if they just get in the habit of doing these Q&As like once a quarter, I think I would feel a lot more happy overall with the communication that they're giving me as a player in their game.
I do think I would like if they're gonna. I like where you're going. I would add to that. I think it'd be really helpful if they said, "Hey, we're gonna do a Q&A. Uh, here's a little bit of information to kind of prime you guys on where we're going short term. That to kind of like direct the conversation
Yeah, I don't mind the idea of some sort of like
primer.
primer upcoming
Yeah,
kind of thing, where they give you like 4 or 5 or 6 topics that they would like you to ask about.
yeah.
Like I feel like that's fine, and that's pretty common in a lot of interview type circles if they don't ask specific questions. Um, so yeah, I could see something like that coming with like a week's notice on the forums or something.
I can say from personal experience of doing Ask the Devs, like a lot of people will come. Not a lot of people, but sometimes people, especially the ones I know, like, "Hey, you didn't ask about this." Like, well, I did. You just didn't see it because
The
you
answer
know,
was
I do a primer with them, right? Like I say, here's the questions I'm looking at asking, and some people say, look, we're just like you can ask that, but the answer is going to be we don't know, we don't have an answer to that, or
right.
we can't talk about that, right? Like, so the
Those are
trick is
things
to
I'm
ask them questions they want to talk about.
correct.
That's where you get the best information
Well, at least the stuff that's the most relevant,
and the most
because people
interesting.
will talk, and they'll talk more about what they're currently like what's on the short list
Hmm.
as opposed, and they'll get into that a whole lot more than like pie in the eye stuff. Um, so like whenever the Q&A kind of inevitably turns into wish list things, I mentioned that in the chat that, oh well, now we've just turned into wish list items.
Well, and the answer
Um,
is like we don't like maybe not.
yeah.
I
Well,
can't. I don't want to
that's
say no,
always going to
never,
be
but
that's always the answers for a wish list item.
mhm.
So just in my opinion, don't even ask it. Just get to questions that they want to explore.
But some of the, I will say the like the question about, hey, can we have new colors for Reaper wings? Like that's a wish list item, but I don't know, like that's kind of more directed and about something that's in the game and gets a better answer.
That is true.
So, uh, so there's where that line is, it can be hard to figure out, I think sometimes. But anyways, the comment: why don't the coin lords have coin sorting technology? I don't
Do
understand
they
why they.
not?
Yeah, they don't. I do. My character does.
It's pretty ancient. Like when I pick stuff up, it automatically even turns to plat and
Yeah.
for maximizing backpack space. I'm so good at storing it, it doesn't even weigh anything.
Let's see, fan site news. We got a shout out for our last show. The Damsels got a shout out for their show, which I thought was kind of fun. 'Cause they are doing much less of a focus on DDO. They have
They are.
really leaned hard into, hey, we're gonna play whatever games we want and not have this be a DDO podcast. So
I don't blame anyone for wanting to do that kind of thing. It's hard always talking about the same subject.
Yeah.
It's easier for DDOcast because
You'd think
you
that.
can. Well, I mean, come on. Only been on like what? You're at episode 600 and something. I've been on maybe 10%. Come on, give me some. I've been around.
Yeah.
But it's a lot easier to start with the news and then pick a subject and have a conversation.
True.
Where like the cocktail hour before it and the damsels show, it was all based about like what did we do this week.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more difficult to feel a longer period of time with what we did when like we only did like an hour of DDO as opposed to like the 5 hours we would have done before, or now we spent 7 hours playing 7 Days to Die instead. Like it's just it's a certain shows the restriction around one particular game is not as great as but you still want to start with the focus so you can pull in that initial audience.
I mean,
people came for the DDO talk, but maybe
Yeah.
they stuck around for the movie talk or whatever.
I keep threatening to branch out into do some stuff with some other games and do some videos and stuff, and it's still like a plan. I just never seem to get around to it.
I will tell you, it is the hardest thing. It is, for at least for me as a streamer. I do Monday through Thursday, semi like a little bit of a tease. Monday through Thursday, I stream DDO all day, right? And then Fridays, I play a vintage game this year of Final Fantasy Tactics. And I even bought a Switch to keep that Friday rotating. And I tell you, I cannot express how many type people will log in and they'll be like, no DDO today? Like, no, it's Friday, we're playing this other game. Ah, all right. And maybe they'll stick around, but typically they move on. So like it's tough like branching into the new variety streamer, where if you are already a variety streamer, I feel like if you settle into a game, then people are like, hey man, you used to rotate things up. So it's always hard when you're trying to produce to your audience, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
See, here's my trick. I'm not producing to my audience. I'm producing what I want to do.
It certainly helps. That's part of how I do it.
I mean, the show is produced towards the audience for sure, but
correct.
like, anyways, let's see. DDO stream. First stop to find DDO on Twitch. This week's shoutouts are Brighter Days Ahead, Bard Life, and Fridays on Ice. This week's Twitch shoutouts are Ovalho Jack, Pantheon Plus, and Strimtom. On YouTube, Axel, Nathan, Napalm, and Planky all get shoutouts. Also, Druid's Fire runs through Feywilds. You can get the playlist on YouTube. And Confessions of a Geek Mom writes about the mix of family and fun that happens after 15 years with DDO. Man, I wish she was still doing more blogging because I thought she had a really fun perspective from a mom and a family of gamers. That was a fun perspective. So I hope she finds time and gets blogs more, even if it's not just about DDO. I just liked her perspective a lot.
Well, it sounds like a personal email, Mr. Patrick.
The 417th Chronicle, that's from this week. Seraphima has created a DDO motions graphics video set to music. So you can watch Primal Echo on YouTube. Also, the High Lords of Malkir are kicking off their new season of teaching raids, so you can check them out. Great way to learn raids. They take new people in, and Voodoo also streams that and does videos, so you can kind of watch along. The comment: which hireling would survive the longest on a desert island?
It's always Ellery. She's the best.
I mean, if it's can a cleric cast spells that's not on their actual hireling spell list? Like, can they cast normal cleric spells like Hero's Feast or something like that? Create food and water? I
assume they're just they preloaded, but if they shrine the next day, they could get their stuff back.
Sure.
Why not?
This week's fan site news, DDO stream, shoutouts for Bard Life, Zero Smash, and D&D Night, which did Rime of the Frost Maiden. It was a lot of fun. On Twitch, Turtles2, Glitch Games, and Samius Gurobo got
That's
shoutouts.
me.
Yeah. And on YouTube, Thazra over Ryan, Strimtom, and Axel all had content. Man, I'm just continued to be amazed. Like this year and kind of towards the end of last year, there's a lot of names in here that are new every week.
There's also a lot of names that are the same every week.
There is that too, but
it's good to find, like, as a person that's in that space, you like look and see what other people do. There's a lot of people out there putting out DDO content that don't necessarily show up in here or whatever.
Sure.
And a lot of stuff that gets put out on YouTube through stuff like Discord channels as opposed to like the forums or whatever. So it's going to take a while to find all those people. But I imagine if you want to be known, you could make make yourself known without too much effort.
I had a brief conversation with Jerry. I don't even remember if it was on the show or it was after the show, but the conversation was basically like, hey, should I, if you are making content about that's DDO based, like drop him a line, like send him a message on Twitter or PM on the forums, or send him a I don't know, a DM on the forums, Twitter. Anyways, get in touch with Jerry, right? Like there's also emails in the Chronicle. Let him know, right? Like there's there's a lot of content out there, so it's he's not going to be able to go out and find all the new content. So if you're creating content, you want to get highlighted, just let him know. Almost guarantee that he'll put you in. So. Let's see. Kurt Owen also answered some questions and while he was questing on the weekly Wednesday lunchtime live stream.
Yeah, I really like this, what he's currently doing. I hope he keeps it up.
Doing a life, right?
A little bit, yeah. Basically, he's, for people who watch Jerry, you tend to know that the characters that he plays on the stream are not characters that get a lot of love or attention. So he dies a lot. He has a lot of problems. He's kind of like that struggling DDO player that you have some experience, but your character's not maybe on a good build, or you don't have gear for it or something. So he's kind of going back through with the idea of doing, I think he's done a TR. So now he's leveling up, basically like a first or third life. I don't remember exactly where he is in the chain. Fighter, and kind of like going through that leveling up process. And as someone who did that 1,000 times for all the lives, I really enjoy that kind of stuff. And I enjoy the idea of like, okay, I'm at level 5. What kind of gear should I be looking for? Should I be doing certain kind of quests to do certain things? And the answer is yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you should. You should be out in Feywild. But those are the kind of things that he's tackling in this kind of discovery or through this leveling process, which is different for him, and I think will really bring up the level of his particular content on the stream.
Yeah. All right. A little bit of lightning post. Fuzzy Duck wrote in about our show last time, and touched on a couple of things. We talked briefly about the anniversary tournament, the 15th anniversary tournament, being available on the hardcore server, and whether or not that should be a thing. Which, that's Jerry said that probably not. That's probably not not at all what they intend.
Wish I would have thought of it.
Fuzzy Duck said he doesn't think that it would matter all that much, really, if you could use it on the hardcore server. It'd have less practical impact than a Gold Seal Hireling, AP tomes, XP potions, etc. from various expansions. Since it's a one-off single item, you'd be locked out of using it again if that character dies. And the 100k XP option would mean you'd end up leveling and locking yourself out of quests for favor. Yeah, I mean, I think those are good points, right? Like, is it?
They are fair points, but wrong.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, again, all those things make a lot of sense, and I'm not trying to say they're not, but like, there are windows where the XP would be desirable.
Sure.
Especially if you're like really struggle with certain areas of the game and you're like going to skip a small window, I can see somebody wanting that. Um, However, the value of like a Sword of Shadows at level 10 um,
Pretty good.
cannot be underestimated,
Yeah.
right? Like
It's fair.
it's that. I mean, that's literally for. If I could just like walk into the hardcore and they'd be like, what one single item would you like to start this life with? It'd be a Sword of Shadows.
Sure.
Um,
Although I spent a long time since I've looked at damage calculations. I kind of wonder how much it compares to a Ravenloft weapon, though.
it's gotta be more. Like I've used both, and obviously there's some situations where the
Yep.
Ravenloft weapon uh wins out, right? Like specifically like fighting undead in particular. But if it's a critical item and you're built for great swords, like you're unstoppable.
Yeah.
If they told me today, they go, Samus, we're going to let you start with one of these items on the hardcore server, I would immediately switch my build to Paladin. I just would. I would become a
Two-handed
charisma.
fighting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
two-handed fighting charisma based Paladin would just become Plan A,
Yeah. It's true.
and I would probably not die. It would be fine.
Yeah.
So like, that's very very powerful.
But Fuzzy does make a good point, right? Like
They're all good points.
all this stuff that you get when you make a character there.
Correct.
Like when I
I'm
make a
not
new
just
character, so yeah.
are not great, but the power of some of those weapons in particular are
Yeah.
just so off the chart by comparison. It's not even funny.
Yep.
Like, what did you get, or did you even cash it in yet?
I haven't cashed it in yet.
Yeah, I haven't cashed mine yet either because I keep thinking about it. But between SOS, Storm, and the Quiver, like I feel like most people should be taking one of those three items.
Probably.
But because those are the things you're going to get the most value of repeatedly. With the SOS, I think being one of the more difficult ones to come by on that list. Quiver being probably the most important one for you to take if you don't have access.
It's definitely the hardest one to get.
It is, and it's not that hard for you to get maximum value out of the Quiver because the ability to use like a Shield of Legends or a Tome of Legends to get that seal to upgrade it is just
Right.
a matter of like either doing the quest or running out in the Explorer Zone.
Yep.
So, it's for those of you who are just listening because of the lightning post, just slightly disagree, even though the points are great. But if you don't have a Quiver, get a Quiver. There, I'm off my soapbox on the
I'm
Quiver.
still kind of just upset that it's only one one.
A lot of
character
people
audio
are.
request.
A lot of people were thinking because it was going to be that high, it would be like the equivalent of pick a pile of runes for whichever one raid, and then run over and go get your one item from your raid. But because of some of the selections, I feel like they're pretty good. You know, like the Mark of Death options in particular, I feel like are very good choices. But yeah, some people had some really pie in the sky ideas with that limit to one per character ever. Or sorry, not one per character.
Like I don't know that it needs to be like one for every character, but just one kind of was eh. Let me use it 3 times. But anyways,
yeah, I don't disagree.
Fuzzy Duck also talked about some ideas for increased VIP benefits. Could be a greater XP boost. They kind of just did. Discounted gold rolls. I kind of like that idea. So, see, in addition to the free weekly one, maybe it's the first time you use it, you get a shard discount. Increased store points allocation. Yeah, I think that's kind of the lowest hanging fruit. It can be 750 points a month or 700 points a month. Discounts on points cost of items in the store. I kind of like that, like VIP only sales. I like that. I'm not sure if they have the technology for it, but I kind of like that idea.
I'm sure that can't be that hard to figure out.
Also some in-game boosts such as a spell melee range power, extra hit points, saves, stats. I don't know if I really want them to go that direction.
I just don't want to ransack my chests. That'll keep me VIP, mate. Just VIPs don't chest ransack.
Or shorten the window.
No ransack. Like that is on par with the idea of opening every quest in my mind. Like that's the power level.
I would be okay with it, but I want one change to that, and that's it doesn't apply to raid chests.
Why? If people want to use a bunch of timers to redo a raid 11 times, like I'm fine with that too.
I don't think it's healthy from a rating. Like if someone the first day it comes out, people just run it ad nauseum until they get what they want and then they never run it again. I don't think that's healthy for the rating scene. But really, more importantly, I don't want to get I don't want my guild to just on raid now. All right, we're running this 50 times. Like I don't want to do it. Like, can we stop after 4?
There's some culture stuff that you would have to adjust, but I don't see how that's necessarily DDO's problem. Like that's a how we implement it problem. I think just your stuff doesn't ransack. You still have the same chances. You're still incentivized in all the same ways to monetize out for the game. Just never ransacks, or maybe even like 3 times the ransack timer or something. I don't know. Again, I feel like no timer is probably better.
I think that would be totally fine with normal chests. It might be a harder sell, but even just getting it down to from 7 days to 3 days, like that's a pretty big.
Maybe you do that with the raid then. Sure. Right? If you ransack it in 3 days, there's a 3-day reset. That seems fine to me.
But to be honest, most people that are doing that are just doing a lesser reincarnation anyways to reset it. So
that's how it works.
Yeah. Anyways, all right. Hey, let's talk about update 48.4. Like I said, this is just going to be kind of a mini little review. Wanted to talk about a few of the things that came out, and just kind of give our impressions on them. Normally we only do this for like actual updates, like full updates, but there's enough stuff in here that I feel like it kind of warrants at least talking a little bit about it. Anywhere you want to start?
Yeah. So Patrick, and a little bit of behind the scenes stuff. When Patrick was like working on notes and stuff, and we're sitting here talking before the show, he goes, "Oh, I'm going to add this line under this section." And as usual, I just want to be like, "This is the most important part of it." And that line is balance changes. Like the whole game got rebalanced in this update, and it feels like it. This is for a mini update or non-expansion update. This thing is huge. Like this completely rebalanced almost the entire game for everybody. It changed your spells damage. It changed your cooldown timers. It changed your spell costs. It changed your melee damage, both if you're a single weapon fighter or if you're a 2-weapon fighter. It changed the monsters damage. Like it hit all the way across the board and essentially rebalanced DDO, in my opinion. A couple of things got not overlooked, but a couple of things got left. So some things by, the benefit of not being played with, either got better or got changed. But like the whole power ranking of where certain classes were shifted, their floors had changed. Like this was a big shakeup for DDO in something so small as a 0.4 update.
Yeah, I think obviously the biggest one is like the sorcerer and alchemist nerfing, right?
Well, that goes hand in hand with the monster buffing though. At the same time, like
sure.
I
will say, like, from having kind of played from 4 to 30 on an alchemist, kind of what I was doing before the nerfs, feels fine to me. To be honest, I don't hate it. It doesn't feel overpowered. It's I keep having to set aside but I was just blowing all this stuff up and it went poof. And it's not doing, like, I have to throw 3 more spells at it or something, or a couple more spells at it. But from kind of across the board, like I'm not finding spell points to be a huge problem. I'm using shrines more often, but it's not like this. Like I can't play the class now because I don't have spell points. I'm still able to blow stuff up just fine, particularly on like R1. Like it's still enough juice to smoke stuff. Maybe I'm casting one more spell, depending on what it is, or a couple more spells for bosses. Bosses are definitely more noticeable. They don't melt like they used to. But I do find myself using a lot more variety of spells with that, which is a little bit more interesting to me. Also, it's slightly a little more annoying because I don't have enough numbers to push all the spells and have things on my hotbar where I want them. So I'm like constantly using my mousing around trying to find other spells to cast that are off timer. It's a little weird,
Yeah,
but
I think the timer changes are definitely big. So you mentioned earlier, whether it was off camera or on camera, I don't remember, that you were doing Alchemist Life. So I also did an Alchemist Life. And I got to 30 before the update, and then the day of the update, I did an Epic TR and went back to 20 and leveled it back up. And there are noticeable changes.
yeah,
It's certainly, you feel it.
yes,
But it's not necessarily unpleasant. Unless you were a person that got the pleasure primarily from it being overpowered. I feel like you would probably be fine with like the Alchemist class and the changes it's at now. Like if you enjoyed playing an Alchemist because you enjoyed how Alchemist played, you're probably not going to notice too much of a difference. You might have to carry around some pots for emergencies. Or like you said, you're going to have to learn a new tile or a new pattern, and you're going to have to spike, especially for in-game bosses. You're going to have to really pay attention for that kind of stuff, which I think is all part of the build that got left on the table the way it was before.
yeah.
I have not played a Sork since the changes, but I will say that originally the Sork time delay on Meteor Swarm didn't get changed, and there was a very distinct, like, people who reported it were basically looked down upon. Like, this is why we can't have nice things. It's like, well, but
they know.
you know, like, come on, man.
They know.
Like, people, it's an important part of it. But like
I
said,
did play my acid based sorcerer because I was running the anniversary with him today, and you know the shorter cooldown on acid well was really nice.
Yeah, it's nice to have a powerful 9th level spell for each of the different elements for everyone.
Yeah.
As opposed to like, well, if you're not casting Meteor Swarm, then you're in the wrong element. So that's really nice to make more things viable. I want them to be really careful as they're doing these kind of things, so it doesn't become generic dot dragons. I want it to continue to feel like you're playing different things. So by having everything become based around damage and time, you can lose some flavor if you're not careful.
Yeah.
But
I still want them to make balance
changes
changes, especially like as drastic as these ones were, more often. But I'm happy that I don't feel like they overcorrected. Doesn't feel like to me like they overcorrected.
I still feel like the Alchemist is probably a little bit overcorrected.
Maybe.
But maybe not like at first people were reporting like a 50% decrease in DPS and stuff like that. I don't think those numbers are correct. I think it's about 20% like everybody else. I feel like everyone got around 20%. Spellcasters got around a 20% reduction. I think melees got reduced like what 0.25 or something.
The math gets complicated. I think the thing that we didn't consider with the alchemist damage going down is if your multivials are on cooldown, you have an opportunity to cast a different spell there, right? So that actually decreases the amount of damage you're losing because you can throw another spell. Now, at that point, the calculation gets really crazy because what spell are you going to cast, right? Like there's There's
But just
options.
like I said, you learn your patterns, and you need to also, like I said, be able to learn to change your spiking.
Yeah.
To maintain the same DPS output. I was just after doing like back to back to back alchemist lives, I just kind of was getting to the point where I could do that a little bit better. And I actually felt like the second life leveled quicker. I think part of that was because I was getting the hang of what was going on, and part of that was just the fact that um, it's easier to level up doing explore zones and stuff.
Yeah.
But
I think
it's just
Alchemist is
certainly felt
probably
good.
the class with the highest learning curve.
Now it probably is closer. I would still say that Alchemist is the. It's really weird, right? So if you don't know anything about Alchemist, you can still go through and be a very powerful character very
True.
easy. Like the training wheels on the Alchemist is very straightforward.
Let me maybe
You're
clarify
not going
this
to be as
statement.
powerful now as somebody else
Let me
without that extra knowledge, though.
let me clarify the statement. What I mean by Alchemist having the highest learning curve is not in terms of like power relative to other classes, but like if you really want to play Alchemist well, I think it has the highest learning curve out of any of the
Right.
classes.
So as like I was
You can
saying, the
play it
floor is
poorly
very
really
low.
powerfully.
The floor is low. Like you can get to this much like a B power level very easily with an alchemist.
Yeah.
To squeeze that last 10% out to get it back into the S camp where it was before, it's that is where a lot of that skill is going to come in. Where previously you didn't need that extra amount of skill because the floor was higher. So
Right.
you would actually be able to take people were able to take alchemist relatively unskilled and pull off some pretty amazing feats with it because it was so strong. So that's what I mean.
Yeah.
They've moved the curve, they've strengthened it, they made it better to pick up that last little bit of skill. Same thing with the Sork. I feel like the Sork's very similar. There's a lot of like getting that last 10% out of the class is amount of skill and power based off of you. And I feel like they adjusted this, they brought this alchemist down where that last 10% is much more interesting and difficult to get to.
Yeah. It definitely doesn't. It doesn't feel like I'm gonna keep playing Alchemist. It doesn't feel to me like they killed the class or anything, or it's unplayable. It's a lot less powerful. That's true, but I
There's
think
going
it's in
to
a
be
pretty
a
healthy spot.
I would agree. I think that for the people who only want to play the very, very top 1% builds, they're probably going to move off of Alchemist and move on to Throwers for a while. And then potentially there could be some changes that bring Alchemist back in. But it's not going to be like the go-to build
Mm-hmm.
for people just wanting to play at the most powerful thing anymore.
I will say kind of the two more thoughts on the Alchemist. The particularly in the heroics and lower levels, I really found that the boost to the negative energy spells was really helpful. Because you can get the inflict serious wounds SLA at level 6, which I tend to use as kind of the backstop to, oh, this thing's immune to my element and I can't break that now, so I'm going to use this. That was actually, and I started actually using it more as a main rotation because it was quite a bit more powerful. That actually took some of the sting out of the earlier levels away. Not that they got nerfed really in the early levels, but I found it to be really helpful. I also did find myself using the Ravenloft belt still from in heroics, yeah, because it gives you the set bonus. Was really the big thing there. I still wanted the set bonus.
Yeah, you still want the set bonus, but now you have a substandard piece of gear in that slot. Kind of, I don't know. A lot of people are still raw over those belt nerf.
So
the
here's
belt
the thing,
nerf,
though.
I think it's the thing that hurts more people.
Definitely, but here's the thing: in that heroic space for an alchemist, at least, I was using a different belt because I was using the devotion nullification belt.
Right.
Because
instead of it being towards your main element,
right,
you're able to use that as a secondary element
Yeah.
slot.
So I found that to be really useful and helpful. I will also say at the higher end, because I did mostly Reaper 6 before, and I did it again this life with the changes. And like I said, it really felt fine. The biggest thing that I noticed as being the difference was boss fights were a little more time consuming. Not a lot. It felt fine. The dot that they added, the dot spell they added, actually pretty okay.
It's a real spell.
Yeah, it's
a real spell.
It's pretty good. It worked well, I think. It's like a higher version. But the other thing that I really noticed though was I needed to adjust my playstyle a little bit because there were certain spots where before what I do is I would jump in, multi-vial SLA, multi-vial, everything's dead. This time it was multi-vial SLA, multi-vial spell, they're not dead, I get plastered and I'm dead. Because I didn't kill it in the first 2 spells. So it was alive to whack me.
See, and this is part of how the changes have highlighted to me, and I don't necessarily pretend to remember what all the spells are. But like, depending on your build selection, you want to start off with like there's the spell that has like 3 different elements in it.
Yeah.
So you start off with that, and then you throw out whatever your fire SLA is, or whatever your element is to awaken it, and then you fire off your volley of multi-vial. And you hopefully, when the fight is over, switch back out of orange stance and back into like prime to go back into orange. So when you throw that first vial, it triggers your go back into orange and you start over again. That's where that skill thing starts to kick in. And it's like, okay, well now I have this rotation, I have the pre-strategy for how I'm going to like kick the door down and do this, that will trigger that, and then this will start happening. So that's where that's that last 10% of that play skill.
For me, it was less the rotation, and it was more the aggressiveness of. Also, there is a factor too that I'm on a different character. Like I finished the project I had been working on, and so I'm working on a new character that doesn't have like the epic past lives and just past lives in general. So I'm working with probably Reaper points. I'm working with like 1,000 hit points less right now. So they jump in and make everything go boom and then move on. Doesn't work anymore because 1, I don't have the hit points to survive more than 2 hits, and 2, everything's not going boom in the same way it was before. So
yeah, the fact that you had a hammer was the most important thing about the alchemist, right? Everything was a nail because you had your hammer. Your hammer's not the hammer it once was, so now you have to throw a couple other things in the mix, and I think that's a good change. It took a class that I did not think was a lot of fun after level 12 and made it fun again.
Good. What's your experience with the other classes casting changes?
I haven't done a ton of the other classes changing. I've been doing some like weird melee stuff and really playing with the single weapon fighting changes, in particular with the offhand versatility. But I've seen some other really interesting things. I've been playing a little bit with the artificer casting stuff. Mm-hmm. I feel like there's a real opportunity out there to build a hybrid caster melee, and I think it's going to be a level 20 arty. Probably running around like in something really odd to help boost the elements even more, and then uses the single weapon fighting and the orb or the rune arm to proc that controllable crits. But again, I think it's a class that's going to involve more time and forethought than I currently have available to give it to a build like that. But I think it's going to be very good.
I have noticed that I'm not sure where they're going to land in terms of the power spectrum, but I have noticed some people really kind of branching out into artificer and cleric and like trying to see like do these spell changes make this more of a viable thing? Early returns people are liking it. Again, I'm not sure where it's going to land power wise, but it feels like those players, the couple players that I've talked to about it, they feel like it's in a pretty good place. Like it's at least viable.
So I know last week a couple people wandered into my stream and they were talking about like a negative energy focused cleric and or favored souls because of the changes. I had the feeling that something like that's going to be really good, especially for the hardcore season. Stuff that doesn't rely on having a lot of gear tends to do very well in the hardcore. Again, that's part of the reason why I'm looking at single weapon fighting right now and using the Charisma Sword that you can get from the Fate Dark Illusionist. I leveled up with it last life, and it felt okay in heroics, like above what you would randomly find for loot. It does not hold up in epics, though. Sorry, devs, try again. But I figure the same thing's probably true with like flame blades and stuff like that as well with the new changes.
There's a fair number of things that don't hold up in epics as much as you want them to.
Sure. But by increasing the options that you have at your disposal for things that don't need bonuses, like again, the negative energy casting, those kind of weapon attacks, stuff like that, especially again like the negative energy stuff because of the number of SLAs that you can get at your disposal, can be really, really strong.
Mm-hmm.
I think people are going to run into a situation where, like in an undead heavy quest, they might have some problems. But outside of those windows, I think people are really going to like it. One of my favorite builds from the hardcore season 1 was a alchemist wizard that was an
I remember that
one, and that's the one that people that I was playing with at the time missed the most because every spell was either a heal spell or a heal spell for me, and it was either healing them or damaging the enemies. So if every time that I cast a spell, I'm getting healed because it's either a positive energy spell or a negative energy spell, then that changes the whole dynamic of your class on the hardcore server and really kind of opens things up. And they have the advantage of a lot of the gear overlapping.
That's going to be kind of the litmus test, right? Is when hardcore season 4 comes out and
correct.
How do these classes kind of go play in the water?
Right. What kind of stuff's going to float to the top and what kind of combinations? Because everything's been shaken up, and it's really hard to draw the line for a lot of people on the differences between the live server and how these changes affect you on live versus something like the hardcore.
Yeah.
I think also they pointed out that they do consider a lot of what happens from the hardcore season when they're putting these balance changes into place. So, like, some of these things are probably taken from lessons from season 3, 2 and 3 in particular. So, I expect a lot of real shakeup in April.
And I think it's important to note, too, I think players, like, when they hear that, they miss kind of what we're saying, right? They're not making these changes specifically for hardcore. What they're doing is they're taking the information they gather from hardcore because of the unique environment of hardcore allows certain things to come to light more clearly.
Correct. So,
and then they can make changes based on that.
If Rogue is very, very popular as a splash, but then nobody ever takes a 4th level in Rogue because Rogue is not very good in survivability after that. That might affect changes highlighted down the road to give rogues like a little bit more staying power in certain situations.
Also, random loot, right? Like, we had the big random loot changes recently.
Yeah.
And that happened because of hardcore. Not because they were trying to design around hardcore, but because hardcore really shined a light on the problem of random loot and how it was generated and what levels it was at.
Correct. Also, that's probably a big part of the reason why, like, we got the augment change was probably being played around with because of that. Same kind of situation because augments are much more important on the hardcore server to help fill in stats and fill in gear places and stuff like that.
By the way, augments are really cheap on the store.
They are. They're a good buy.
So, I see this come up every once in a while in trade channels. Like, hey, I'm needing to trade for this. Like, I don't have 20 tokens to go buy this augment. Like, it's only 95 points in the store.
Yep. Like, you probably earned that already on this server like 4 times, so
Yeah. Okay. Other two things I want to.
good.
The other two things I want
How
to
do
make
you
sure we
like
talk
the
about.
raid really quick? Oh, I'm sorry.
So there's
Go
two
ahead.
things I want to talk about: the raid and the anniversary event.
Look it, I got us there. Or
Uh,
you got us.
which one do you want to talk about first?
I was asking, what do you think of the raid?
Uh, I generally like it. There's things. It's a middle of the road raid for me. Here's the things I like about it. I like the feedback it gives on some of the mechanics, particularly like the dancing effect. Like I like how it tells you what's going. Like it communicates to the player what you need to do. Maybe not like you have to kind of figure out what's happening, but like if which direction you need to move, I feel like it communicates pretty clearly. The puzzles, I really like how it has the arrows with the stones going up and down, and they're numbered. Like there's some things about that I really kind of like mechanically. Um, I like the beats. It doesn't feel like too many puzzles. The puzzle number feels pretty good. Um, the places that it drops down for me, um, the bear has a special attack that might be a little too punchy. Lack of a better way to say it. Um, it hurts and it's gonna kill. It kills a lot of people if you get there. Um, the only really good defense that I've seen for it is kill the bear fast. And I know how the mechanics work. Like being closer to the bear means you take less damage. But it seems pretty consistent to me that if the bear is up for much time, things go south really fast. Because of that sonic attack. So I'm not sure what the answer is there. But that has me started a little bit. I also have a general problem with Fomorians. Um, I, their wind up on their big eye laser beam, like the wide angle, do a bunch of damage in the beam. It doesn't feel like to me like that attack has enough of a clear wind up. Maybe it's because there's something happening above my viewport because I tend to be pretty close, so I don't see up very well. But that special attack doesn't feel to me like it's, and that's kind of a general thing across all Fomorians. That eye laser does not have a good enough wind up for me, in terms of what kind of damage it can do. And the other thing that I don't like about the raid is I like the puzzles. I don't like how they implemented them. I would much rather have them said like it doesn't matter which version of the puzzle you're doing, the 4 buttons all move the stones in the same way, or maybe there's only 4 things that the buttons do, but maybe they're switched up a little bit. And then have a lot of different solutions. There's very, very few solutions to the puzzles. Like I don't actually do the puzzles at this point. There's like each puzzle has a solution, and then there's like a fifth solution that can come up, and there's actually a way to do it that you don't even have to reference that. That solves it every time, as far as I can tell.
So I think a lot of what you're saying I agree with generally. I've not run into a situation with the bear sonic attack being a problem in our group. But I imagine a situation that could probably get out of hand. For me, I think there's some tweaks that I would have probably done for the puzzles. Like I probably would have made the reset button also changed everything.
Ooh.
I feel
I
like,
don't like that idea just from the standpoint you're trying to solve the
well,
puzzle, and having a reset button change the puzzle that you're working on just completely
so
erases your.
perhaps what I'm trying to say, not necessarily is changes the buttons necessarily. Like you figure out what the buttons do, then you reset it and you get a different puzzle than you had before to figure out. So instead of having like 4 puzzles with the 4 different buttons that go with them, you would have like 10 puzzles, and you would figure out which buttons you had, and then you would basically have multiple versions of the puzzle to solve. So like you would have your first button that raises the first one up one and the furthest one down one. Like you would figure out what your buttons do on a particular puzzle, reset it, and then you would get a different puzzle. I think we kind of have a similar way of how to do it. It's just we'd both like to see more puzzles to be implemented. I just think
They
I
need
would
more
have a
variety.
situation. Yeah, I think in my world it would have been you would change which puzzle you're doing when you hit the reset button, or perhaps you would hit the reset button so many times within a rapid succession it would change the pattern. There, in my world, there'd be some way that changed that. That's how I originally kind of thought the puzzles were working on that first day. I was a little bit disappointed to find out that they were what they were.
They
But that
just
being
need
said,
more variety. Like when I think like the puzzles in Too Hot to Handle, like they have a very large number of solutions, right? At the same time, I don't really think of it as a puzzle as much as you just doing the combination. These on the surface have a much greater puzzly nature to them, but once you break them down and realize how few solutions they are, they're even less of a combination puzzle.
yes, but the nature of the puzzle is not just the combination. It's also a matter of how it interacts with the rest of the world. So, like for example, I had did the raid last week, and I was assigned puzzles, and I had monsters running across the puzzles while I was trying to solve it. I had players running across the puzzles when I was trying to solve it. Like world interaction
Sure.
certainly has an impact on that.
Though I don't
Um,
consider that to be I'm not considering that problem in terms of how good the puzzle is.
sure, but I think that needs to be considered as part of that puzzle whole. Um, I'd also like to see something else happen at the puzzles. So, like I don't know how your server's necessarily handling it, but we kind of divide into a team that stays in the middle and holds everything. Then we have like the team that goes out and solves the puzzles, comes back, clears the middle wave, runs around some more.
Yeah.
I think that's probably pretty common.
Yeah,
So we get
there's two jobs. Hold the center, do everything else.
correct. Um, so like in the moment where the team is solving the puzzle, that's one person typically interacting and doing something with the other like 6 people or whatever that's with you are standing there picking their nose. I'd like to see
Sure.
something that these other people get to do that is important. Um, I feel like that there could have been a moment in there that they could have done something, whether it was stand on a spawner so monsters don't spawn while you're doing the puzzle or something. You know what I mean? There's an opportunity to do something else with those puzzles. So everybody's got a role to play.
I see what you're
Um,
saying. Yeah, I can see that.
but other than that, I think it's pretty good for a one room dungeon or one room raid. Like there's a little bit of variety. It's not just beating down one giant boss through the whole thing.
To be
You
honest,
know,
I don't
like
even really notice the one roomness.
I mean, it definitely is that. It's just
I mean,
it doesn't necessarily
it's a
feel
much
like it.
bigger room than I think people generally think of as a one room dungeon. But I don't.
Sure.
It has the stuff that's going on in there doesn't make it feel to me like it's a one room raid.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Like you definitely feel like you're going over to certain areas to do
Yeah,
certain tasks and coming back.
yeah,
Um, but it at the end of the day, it it is a one room dungeon where things are happening along the path. It has more opportunity for people to do stuff through the whole raid, except for this one situation where you're physically solving puzzles.
yeah. I like the beats. I like the movement through the story. I like the music. Um, I kind of tune out the lyrics at this point. Um, it kind of comes and goes depending on what's going on. But I like it.
Yeah, it's good. Like I said, I think the raid overall is pretty good. Um, I don't know if you'd put it in that same camp as like a Solimati or a Solirud, Lord of Destruction, like a legendary Lord of Destruction, even though it's kind of the same thing in the sense, um, just a bigger room. Um,
I think of it as 5 rooms. Like I don't know if I'm gonna get Like I know that there's no doors to go through, but it's far enough. Like there's 5 different areas you're going to.
You are in the sense that there are things like if you put a portal in a teleport screen, it would still feel the same to me. I think
Yeah.
it is just a one big room type thing where you're going off to do things. A Lord of Destruction, those things are smaller. They're physically closer, but they're the same kind of things.
I'm
I
assuming you're
like
talking
that
about
if
Vision
you,
of Destruction.
yeah, sorry, what am I
Okay.
saying?
Lord of Destruction.
Lord of Destruction. Sorry, Vision of
I
Destruction.
wasn't sure if it was Lord of
Um,
Blades or Vision of Destruction.
no, but Lord of the Blades has even less things to do.
Okay,
um,
Lord of Blades is there's
I mean,
fewer
for
things to
side,
there's fewer things to juggle, but there's a lot more going on.
correct. I meant for side projects to do.
Yeah.
Side projects. Um, but yeah, I like it.
Lord of
I
Blades
think
is a side project.
again, I now that I've been doing these epic TRs, I've been getting more into doing some of these raid things, and some of these things boil down into like, all right, I'm I'm just gonna attack the boss. Like, I
Yeah.
don't even care anymore. That's all I'm gonna do.
Lord of Blades has so much going on that he can do though that attacking that boss is a lot more dynamic than most. Anyways,
Yeah.
um,
Anyway, I think the Dryad and the Demigod is a good raid. A simple raid, but a lot of fun. I don't think people are gonna like leave it like Lord the Hound raid. Like I think people will continue to do it because it's fun.
well, and it's a good. You can get a lot of runes and threads out of it.
Yep.
Once you got it down, like the only thing that's gonna slow people down is the puzzles and the bear. And
Yep.
the
I
bear
agree.
is less of an issue with that because it's um a lot of groups are going to be able to kill the bear before he does. Like he might get one sonic attack off. Um, my experience with the bear is if he gets 2 sonic attacks off, you're in trouble because
Yeah.
usually by the time the second one goes off, you're missing about half the party. That's
Yeah.
been my
I have
general
not
experience.
seen it. I've not seen it go off a second time yet. So.
Yeah, it can happen. Um,
And
so
then you also wanted to talk about the anniversary event.
yeah, just at least briefly. Did you play with it at all this go around?
I've done it. I've done it some, not as much as I've done it in previous years. I feel
Yeah,
like they
I
have
agree.
not added as much stuff that
It's the
I would
same
want to
thing. It's
see.
just different flavoring, right? Like the Cordovan fight isn't lava filled.
Correct. It's much better. This is the most challenging I think the Cordovan fight has been yet.
Really?
And I like that. Yeah. Well, I feel like the first couple of years that they did it, even though they changed it every year, I feel like it's not been a tough fight. This year, I don't know if I died or if I went in cap or what, but that fight tore me up real bad
I do
this
like
year.
how it uses some of the Feywild stuff, right? Like the fiddle and the password protected cannons and stuff.
Yeah, some of that stuff I haven't necessarily screwed around with very much, and probably that's the problem. Is that I imagine once
The
you know what the command word is to just say, it probably makes that fight a lot less hard.
there's a guy outside the door that tells you what the password is. I didn't play around with it because I just blew him up.
Right.
But I think that I don't know if the password changed, but there's a guy outside the door that tells you, and then there's some of the fiddles that you can grab. So you have to get the gargoyles to go into their huddle mode and then hit them with the fiddle.
Mm-hmm.
Which, to be fair, is really difficult because there's a lot of things shooting you, so it makes it hard to get the fiddle off. But
Right. Like I said,
um,
I just been beating it down for the most part, and like I said, it just in that beat down it feels tougher. The Severlin fight feels a little bit tougher, also. Like he's
I
hitting
didn't
a little
notice it
harder.
as being changed at all.
I don't know. Like I said, I feel like I feel like one of the bosses at random is tougher than it has been in the past. Like
Mm.
I would probably have told you other than the Linabelle fight and like failing a disintegrate roll. I would not have said I've had any problems in any of the rooms in the past, but I have died in every fight leveling up except for the Linabelle fight this go around.
Interesting. Um, I the only things that I know mechanically, the only thing I noticed that was different was the Cordovan fight. Everything else felt exactly the same as last year. Um, the things that I noticed was kind of more cosmetic-y stuff. Like they have the hardcore avatars in one
Mm-hmm.
spot talking to each other. That was kind of interesting. I like that the D&D table is the Feywild characters being DM'd by the gingerbread man.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of fun. Um, so stuff like that. A couple of the newer devs have avatars in there that are kind of interesting.
More of the other ones are hidden behind the stage, I believe. I saw some new names down there this year,
Yeah,
I think.
those are where they put the devs who are no longer there.
Correct. Correct.
um, which is a little bit unfortunate. Like you see some of the names on there, it's like, oh, but I like that dev.
Right.
But no, there's a I think it's Fance is in the Severlin room, and the avatar there was just really kind of creative and interesting, so I liked that. Although I was totally expecting it to come alive and attack me. And then Free Shrugs, I think, is the name. It's a snowman by the Harbor Master. That if you talk, I don't know if you have to talk to him to get him to do it, but the snowman does a bunch of like movement stuff that's kind of fun. That Free Shrugs is the guy who does a lot of the animations for cloaks and stuff like that. So, I enjoyed I really enjoyed the additions that were the meta editions. So we say, I appreciated those.
Yeah, I just would like to have seen a little bit more items
Sure.
created and added this year, or some stuff kind of like taken sideways a little bit.
I really want them to add the dragon sentient gem to that loot list. I think that's
that would be fine.
A good place to add that.
Just something. So for those of you who don't watch the stream regularly, a couple of people from the past have come back. So like I've been trying to help them farm their like teleport D12.
Oh sure.
Same thing for like my wife's account and another new person back to the stream, stuff like that. So I find myself running it a lot to help others out, and feel like there's not a lot of value for
you,
for me.
Yeah, the consumables are kind of lackluster, I think, right?
Yeah, in general,
the cookies.
Yeah, I think they could have done a lot of different things in there. They could have added mounts, or like a mount of some sort. They could have done a bunch of things in there for the vets who have all that stuff from previous years.
They did add. I mean, they added a lot of stuff. It's just it was the cosmetic cloaks is the bulk of it.
Right, and then didn't they add like a small shield or a medium shield or something? Maybe it's a large shield. I feel like they added a shield of some sort, but it's just like, even with the single weapon fighting changes, I can't convince myself to make a shield.
I have never been impressed with any of the items out of that pack, out of that stuff. So,
while TRing, I will tell you that I used pretty much every single one of the forum posts. So if you don't have them and you're planning on doing a lot of caster TRs, they often were very, very good in slot. I used primarily the 10, the 15, but sometimes even the 20s were quite strong for a while. But I used a lot of that. But mostly for me, it's the D12. I find I use that D12 a lot. And I think that everyone should have one for each of their main characters that they play around with.
The tank coffee is a good get if you have a tank.
Yeah, see, and even the coffees I gave up on. I decided they were not worth it, and I threw them in the trash.
They are annoying to use, but the tank one has a +10 intimidate on it. That's super helpful.
If you're squeaking out those intimidate values, that's how you got to do it.
Yeah.
So. But overall, I think it was fun. And having people get to see it for the first time a couple of times,
sure,
was really fun for me. So even though I had done it 1,000 times, they hadn't, and it was still a fun experience. So I'm glad they brought it back.
Good. Yeah, I mean, I like the event, and I like the meta-ness, and it has a lot of fun to it. And it's kind of fun to go in there and kind of see how they tweak the meta stuff a little bit. The beats are the same, so.
Some of the things are a little different, but yeah, I don't know. I wish that they would either increase the experience on it, or make that chestnut grand sack, or like put like a dozen little things that they could
Sure.
change that would make it a lot more fun and interesting. It's not the same thing as the Maybar event, and I want it to be like you're talking about the anniversary of the game. It's 15 years, right? People live and die in Maybar during Maybar season.
Well,
People
there's
are not
also 9 dungeons in there, and this one there's only one.
correct, but at the same time, like I said, they could do a little bit with it to make it, I think, a little
Yeah.
bit more desirable to run and spend time in, because it is a fun thing that only comes around once a year.
Yeah, I also find I don't know, maybe it's just me. The amount of ingredients you get for the run just has always felt off to me. It always feels low.
You're 13, you're 12,
12, yeah.
12 on a perfect run. Yeah, that was a comment that one of the new players made. He's like, everything is by 12, it just seems like a weird number of runs to have to get this stuff that I want.
Yeah. I mean, it just feels like a lot of runs of the same thing. And I
It
don't
is.
know what the solution there is. Like I'm not sure that it's just like straight bump up. Although I will say there's probably low hanging fruit in the VIP perks. Like maybe you get VIPs get 10% more rewards out of challenges.
There could be lots of things they could consider
But
for that kind of stuff.
I don't know. It just feels
It just needs a
feels
little
grindy.
bit more something.
It feels
Yeah,
grindy.
I don't disagree. And
You know,
again, when
having
you're doing the grind and the experience is like 7,000, and you're talking about just regular chest loot at the end or something, you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
it
that wouldn't really
feels
do it for me. But
unsatisfying.
you know what? I think actually ancillary is probably the problem because I'm thinking about like the new winter festival, the Snow Peaks festival thing that they
Okay.
just did. That's also pretty grindy, just running when you're doing the snow slide.
Hmm.
Now, granted, you can get a lot of benefit to it without doing that, which I think is helpful. Um, but the snow slide is pretty grindy and pretty boring. Uh, and I think the reason why that was less grindy than feels less grindy than this is that football season is over, and I'm not doing it while I'm watching football and paying more attention to the football than I am what I'm doing.
Yeah, I don't think you can
So
do that either, though. I don't
that's
think you could like.
probably true.
I don't think you could check out as much.
I think you're
I
right on
can't
that,
prove
but
it. I can't prove it, but I do feel like they increased the difficulty slightly.
sure.
Not a lot, not like in massive numbers, but enough that it's noticeable. I think for again for new players in
Yeah.
particular.
All right. Well, I think that'll wrap it up. Unless there's anything else you want to cover with update 48.4.
No, I just overall I think it's interesting, right? For the sheer amount of people that were upset about these upcoming changes and nerfs, it it certainly has a lot of that rip off a battery feel, or a
Band-Aid.
bandage feel, where it hurts, it stings, but really once you get it off, you're going to find out that you're in a better shape than you were before, right?
Well, I don't know if I'd say a better shape, but it's not as bad as I
Well,
thought it was going to be.
so again, it's a matter of taking it back out to the meta of the whole balance of the game, which
Sure.
is what I think of what this is right now. It was the balance change. It was they realized a bunch of stuff was out of whack and it needed pushed in or lifted up. Um, and if you look at the different curves, I think they pushed down pretty good and pretty hard in some places. Again, particularly with the Alchemist, I think they pushed it a little bit too much, and I think that they might lift it up a little bit in the coming updates. Um, but at the same time, I feel like they lifted up a lot of people really well, especially single weapon fighters, particularly bards, particularly people who could cast negative energy spells. I feel like a lot of those things got lifted up to the point where a lot of things are now viable that weren't viable 2 months ago, um, in the current balance of the end game. So again, there's some ouchie from ripping that band-aid away, but you're give it 6 months and I
Two
think
or
you'll feel
three.
a lot more balanced.
2 or 3.
No, I mean maybe that quick. Maybe some people will be that fast, but I think the real shifts of it are not going to be noticeable until we start moving to the hardcore season 4. I think that is where you're really going to see how much of a difference this makes.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see a whole lot more variety of builds on the hardcore than previous years.
I mean, I'm already seeing more variety in builds on live too.
Well,
So
that's the other part. Like build variety on live is stronger than it's been.
which is
for
good. I
now.
mean, that's where we want it to be. So
Exactly. Again, it hurts a little bit, but I think overall it's going to be a positive thing. It might need to be some course correction here and there, but use the forums, respectfully let the devs know your thoughts, use the Twitters, whatever, and things can get changed and lifted back up slightly if they were overcorrected. But you got to do it respectfully. I always feel like I have to hammer that point home, or otherwise we get nothing but yelling at devs and nothing gets done.
Giving feedback is an art.
It is.
All right. Do you want to plug your show and your stuff?
Sure. So you can find me Monday through Thursday on twitch.tv or youtube.com/Samius Gurobo, all one word. And we Monday through Thursday we're playing Dungeons and Dragons Online. We do a morning stream, really more of a lunchtime stream. I try to cover the East Coast to the West Coast noon break period, and then I come back around 7 o'clock Central Time. And I usually stream pretty late into the evening, 2 a.m., etc. We're doing lots of TRs where we've got some people coming back from the dead almost. People haven't been back in 7 years, etc. Doing some multi-boxing thing, like bringing my wife's account up to speed in the chance that she decides she wants to come back and play DDO again, or you just want to, have someone hard carry you through stuff at R10. So we're doing some different things this year over on the stream. And of course, if you're an Instagram person, look for the USS Fat Halfling. I'm taking the bus out as often as I can. We're working on it as much as possible with the goal of being able to move into the bus full time by the end of the summer. And so lots of work and lots of changes on that, and new dog and all that stuff. So if you're interested in those kind of things, the USS Fat Halfling on Instagram. I don't know how to really like advertise for Instagram. If this is not a good Instagram ad, let me know. It's
Needs
something
pictures.
I've only recently. Yeah, exactly. If I only had a picture to describe my Instagram, but it's something that I haven't really played with a whole lot on trying to like grow. So like, if people are like, "Yeah, we'd love Instagram, maybe some more DDO stuff," I can put more stuff out there. Just let me know what you guys want. I know I have to do more training videos for like Feywilds and stuff like that, so I'll be working on those in the next coming weeks. I've got a lot of dirty messages about that. But we just kind of try to do whatever you guys want us to do. So join us, twitch.tv/Samius Gurobo.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining us today, Samius. And I enjoyed the. It's always fun to have you on the show, man. Had a good conversation. Thanks for listening. Thanks to all the folks who help with DDOCast. And thanks to Sandstone Games, Wizards of the Coast, and Cyber Ears for hosting the podcast. If you'd like to support the show, you can visit us at DDOCast.com, or you can visit us on Patreon as well. If you have a DDO-themed webpage or you Twitch DDO and like to be featured on our website, you can email us at DDOcast@gmail.com. And you can also hit us up at DDOcast.com for show notes, MP3s, our calendar, previous shows, and other fun stuff. If you have a comment on this episode, a question you'd like to hear us answer, a topic you'd like to hear us discuss, or you just want to say hi, leave us a comment or email us at DDOcast@gmail.com. You can also find us on social media, and follow us for the latest cast updates at DDOcast on Twitter is the best place. So until next time, may all your attack rolls be crits, all your chests level appropriate, have fun, and don't forget to gather for buffs.